Welcome to the world united. Welcome to the world united.
Yes, as our next speaker, next honored speaker, we have Dr. Richard Shah, Dr. Richard D. Shah. He is an emeritus professor of American literature at Catholic University, Washington, D.C. He received his doctorate from the University of California, Santa Cruz in 1978 and taught at numerous schools. Howard University and George Washington University, also in Washington, and Catholic University of Eastern Africa in Nairobi, Kenya. In 2013-14, Dr. Shah received a Fulbright Nehru Fellowship to teach and do research at University in Kolkata. In 2014, he retired in India and resides now in Shantiniketan, West Bengal. In 2016, he joined the WCPA and helps promote the Earth Federation. All his adult life, he has been a Quaker in one of the historic peace churches in Christianity. Now, a musician, he plays in a ball folk music group. So now we are going to share the screen with Dr. Richard Shah. You're most welcome, sir. So over to you now, sir. Unmute yourself, sir.
Am I hearable, audible now?
Yes, you're audible, sir. You're audible.
Oh, I am. Okay. So I can begin now. Okay. Namaste. Thank you so much. The two speakers already I've enjoyed so much, both Zia and Murthy, discussing dance as a form of inner peace. I understand that too, because though not a dancer, I've been a painter and a poet, and now in Shantiniketan, I'm part of a Baul music group. And I think also like dance, to be a musician, you become one with the music, and that's also very transcendent. And moreover, in the hut where we play in Bengal, at Kauai Hut, when we play music, everyone's dancing, dancing, dancing. And I noticed that children, as Zia was saying, they love music. I mean, even 1, 2, as long as they can stand. And yes, they begin to turn after a while. And it's so great to share that kind of happiness. So I'm taking a little different tact, not just today, but I think generally most of the speakers in the World Parliament of Spirituality are talking about inner peace, which is essential for any kind of action in the world. Now, as a part of Earth Federation, I'm more interested now in creating outer peace in terms of world peace and how to do that. I should say, in addition, in terms of my biography, during the Vietnam War, which is when I was at university, had been drafted to fight in that war, which made no sense to me. I had applied for conscientious objector status. And that means as a pacifist, I was allowed to work in a hospital for 2 years as alternative to military service. So I became a pacifist early in life, and I joined Quakers, which, as noted, was one of the historic peace churches. And unlike the other two, the Mennonites and the Church of the Brethren, like them, we never participate in war. Quakers are unique in that our service is 1 hour of group meditation, or communal prayer, you might say. And when someone's inspired, they stand up and speak. It's a very beautiful, at least for me, form of meditation and spirituality. But as a CO in the Vietnam War, I have come to believe that without soldiers, we can have no wars. So if everyone refused to be a soldier, we would have no wars. If people refused to work in armaments factories, if people, conscientious citizens all over the world, refused to pay that percentage of their taxes to so-called defense, which is really the war budget, that would also prevent wars. But I really believe, as we all do, I think that peace within brings peace without. They go together. If you're a peaceful person, you might, like myself, be led to peaceful action. But it's a little bit dangerous because, as Mother Teresa noted, the saint of Kolkata, she said she never participated in a peace demonstration because everyone was so angry. Everyone was yelling and shouting, and they were more anti-war than they were pro-peace. And I think that's a very good point. What is a peace warrior? I've been very inspired by the Russian novelist Leo Tolstoy, who talked about the war against war. And but we have to fight with spiritual weapons. What are those weapons exactly? Well, of course, in India, I learned that ahimsa, or no harm, and satyagraha, love or truth force, must be related to peace force. In Christianity, the form of love called agape, which is God working through human beings. In Buddhism, it's called karuna, I believe, compassion, active compassion. I think those are the weapons of a peace warrior. I've also been influenced by Buddhism a great deal. Nichidatsu Fuji of Nichiren Buddhism in Japan, who incidentally marched in India with Gandhi in 1931, was a relentless fighter for nuclear abolition. And he said, quote, "The elimination of nuclear weapons is an absolute spiritual issue." And I agree with him 100%. I think to work for peace and against the military establishment, non-violently, of course, it's spiritual. Dance is spiritual, music is spiritual, art is spiritual. Any form of meditation and contemplation is spiritual, but to work for peace in the world, I think, is also spiritual. But how do we create world peace? In other words, how do you make peace? When I was in that city of, in any case, I met a holy man who said, I told him I was doing peace work and I was trying to make peace. He said, "How can you make peace? Peace already exists." And I think that's so accurate. Peace does exist, and we can be a part of it if we choose to. The problem with, I think today, at least on a political level, is the United Nations is not working. It's been noted many times, the 5 members of the Security Council, all of whom are nuclear nations, will block everything because each one of them has absolute veto power. For example, very recently, and it's probably, you don't know about this because it's not reported in the media much, but there's been a treaty to prohibit nuclear weapons, which originated in 2017 in the General Assembly of the United Nations. It's now been ratified after 3 years by 50 countries. 50th was the number they needed, and Honduras, a small country in Central America, ratified it, not just signed it, but ratified it through their Congress. And this treaty takes effect January 22nd, 2021, like less than a month away, or exactly a month away. And that's very encouraging. However, what will come of it? I fear nothing will come of it. Because in 1961, the United Nations again put forward a declaration banning nuclear weapons. And in 1978 and 82, the first and second special sessions on nuclear disarmament led to no abolition of nuclear weapons, though some treaties came out, some numbers of missiles were reduced, but nuclear weapons were not abolished. This is the third time then the people of the earth, speaking through United Nations, have tried to get nuclear weapons abolished, and I'm afraid nothing will happen, but maybe I'm wrong, I hope. Albert Einstein said, you may be familiar with this quotation, since the splitting of the atom, everything has changed except our manner of thinking, and therefore we are drifting toward unparalleled catastrophe. We have to change our minds, the way we think. He also said there is no salvation for civilization or even the human race other than the creation of a world government. What's frightening to realize, though, if there's a nuclear war, it will probably begin in Asia. Kashmir is a very dangerous place right now with Pakistan, India, and now China interested in Ladakh. All have nuclear weapons. As we know, Israel and Palestine is very dangerous, and the Korean Peninsula also. And yet nuclear proliferation continues. In 5 or 10 years, what other countries will have nuclear weapons? Saudi Arabia, maybe, Iran, Turkey, maybe Egypt, maybe UAE. We should note, though, that South America, the continents of South America, Africa, and Antarctica are considered nuclear-free zones. So there are no nuclear weapons there, hopefully never will be. Space also used to be denuclearized, but that's no more because the United States began a third escalation of nuclear weapons from initially bombers to missiles. Now they're putting, and not just United States, but other countries are putting nuclear weapons in satellites. And this is very, very frightening. There's some good news coming, but I just have to kind of lay out the situation, which is hard to look at, actually. But there have been many voices for world government in our time. Gandhi and Nehru both talked about World People's Assembly and Commonwealth of Nations. Sri Aurobindo also. Albert Camus, the French Nobel laureate, and Abdul Baba, who was head of Baha'ism, the world's newest world religion at the turn of the last century. He also spoke about the need for world government. Pope Francis has been a very activist pope who's talked about not only is the use of nuclear weapons a crime against humanity, but the very possession of nuclear weapons to produce and possess and stockpile them is a crime against humanity also. The World Constitution and Parliament Association, WCPA, created the Earth Federation, and that's what I'd like to talk about, which I think is very positive because it gives us a possibility, a choice, if it were taken seriously. It was begun in 1958 by two Americans, Philip and Margaret Isley, and it developed over time until 1969. There began a series of provisional or constitutional conferences to create a constitution. By 1991, these lawyers and jurists from around the world, many hundreds of people, created the Earth Constitution. And since 1991, it's been ready to be ratified. We're having in next year in Delhi, 2021, a provisional world parliament. Hopefully the Dalai Lama will attend, or if maybe virtually, in any case. But we need nations to ratify the Earth Constitution. We're hoping maybe India will be the first, or Nepal. or maybe New Zealand or Japan. Japan is the only nation with a peace constitution. Let me just say, under the Earth Constitution, nation states will still exist and their unique cultures will still exist. That all will remain, but none of these nations will anymore have absolute sovereignty. Humankind's international order, the Earth Constitution, will be the only authority, one based on holism and unity and diversity. The Earth Constitution has a peace system, which I want to talk about briefly. It also has a prosperity system, a justice system, a freedom system, and a sustainability system. The peace system is based on basically 4 points. One is immediate demilitarization and nuclear abolition. Again, nations will be maintained, their unique cultures will still exist, but the $2 trillion that the nations of the world spend on armaments and preparation for war will be freed up. That money will be like a peace dividend that could be used to create a new democratic order, with the House of Peoples representing the people, each person, the House of Nations representing each nation, and the House of Counselors representing the different regions of the world. This would be the democratic foundation. World peace only comes through world law. So legislation would immediately prohibit the creation of weapons of mass destruction. The world judiciary would have authority over all persons, nations, and corporations, and would resolve conflicts before violence began. Thirdly, there'd be world police and attorneys general. The world police would only have weapons needed to apprehend individuals. There would be a department of conflict resolution, which would solve problems on the local level before they could escalate. It would also protect each citizen from the excesses, abuses of corporations and even nations. And fourthly, there would be peace education. There'd be a World Education Act to promote global peace studies, teaching responsibility for good government, and promoting peace, tolerance, and respect for all human rights. There would also be ecological rights are already written into the Earth Constitution. We have a right to a good climate and a healthy planet, the right to world peace, and these are not in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. Ecological rights, the right to world peace, the right not to kill, which is very interesting. No one can be conscripted and trained to kill other people. In other words, a right to conscientious objection. So in conclusion, I just want to share with you, this is the Constitution for the Federation of Earth. You can read about it or read the whole thing if you like on www.earthconstitution.world. earthconstitution.world. I'd also like to share briefly a book by one of my heroes, Swami Agnivesh, who sadly died several months ago. He was a member of WCPA and one of our counselors, you might say. And this book applied spirituality, a spiritual vision for the dialogue of religions. This is so important, I believe, again, if we want world peace, for the religions of the world to find more harmony, more respect for one another. We call it in US interfaith dialogue. He spoke a lot about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but the idea that the world is one family. This is needs to be our goal, for the whole family of Earth to be one. That's about all I have to say. Thank you so much, Dhanyavad, and Om Shanti.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Richard Shah. That was wonderful. Yes, it was something very different because we here talked of a peace warrior. And what exactly you talked about was the non-violence and satyagraha. Yes, if people move towards spirituality, and if laws like you have, talked about, if they are made and they are implied, and people follow them, definitely it's going to be the world is one family. It's going to be peaceful everywhere. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And now
Welcome.
here comes your oh, just a second. I have to. This is not. Yes. This is your certificate of appreciation from the World United. And
Thank
this
you.
is proudly presented to you for being an esteemed presenter in the third edition of the World Parliament on Spirituality 2020 Asia. The World Parliament on Spirituality, this was edition 3. And so we are really honored to have such a different, diverse people. Yes, normally don't talk about, talking about peace at a different level. Here you have inculcated the spiritual values in your book that you